Alright, let's get a 30-minute game going. Endeavoring to do one more today, trying to build up a little bit of a buffer. These, of course, will be released daily at the same cadence that they have been. Here we go. We got the white pieces. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop B5 through ruy-lopez. They get their bishop out. I don't think this has given us any issues in the past. I like getting castled here first, and then I think it's good to play d3 or get a knight out. We have a couple of options. Is the move c3 followed by d4? I think it might be. And then do we need a way to protect this pawn on e4? Do we play queen to e2? I think that makes sense. Queen to e2, or we could play rook to e1. I think typically the way I'm familiar with this is the knights come out before the bishop, and then you don't play rook to e1 until the bishop comes out to e7. So I think we should play rook to e1 to protect this pawn on e4. That makes sense to me. Then we can play c3, d4. Okay. Knight takes, starting to look like a little bit of a threat. We could play rook up to e2 to add another defender to f2 and prepare to double the rooks at a later date. I don't see another way we can add a defender easily. They've got a lot of pressure on this rook right now. 1, 2. Not really a lot of pressure, just some pressure. An alternative would be playing d4, but they have 1, 2, 3. Let's see, they have 1, 2, 3 attackers on that square, and we only have 1, 2 defenders. So I guess we could take here first and then play d4. Seems decent. That also leaves this e5 pawn hanging. Oh my. I didn't calculate this correctly at all. So they will win a rook. I think probably the move is king to f1 would be my guess. Because, well, I guess king to f1 they have knight to h2, and then we can take, or we can take. Okay, yeah, that seems fine. They'll take. We'll take back with our queen. And we're down in exchange, just like that. Jeez. Do you think we go ahead and move forward with our plan? I guess, does anything change here? We don't do anything differently. I don't think so. Still control a lot of the center, even though we're down in exchange and our king is sort of exposed. Yeah, get out here, get our bishop out, and then we'll figure out what to do from there. Actually, queen to g3 looks decent. Or no, their knight is protected by their light squared bishop, so we're not really threatening anything there. Although queen to g3, that opens up knight takes, which looks appealing. That pawn is only protected by this knight. So I sort of like the idea of queen to g3 next. Queen to g3, knight takes. If knight takes, then queen takes with check. King moves out of the way, and then we have some options, I think. They get their light squared bishop out a little bit. Threatening, I think. Bishop to c4 check, but I think if we get our queen out. I don't mind moving our king back to g1. If that's forced, that's fine by me. Get it off of the open f file. And now if they do this, they leave their knight hanging. And I think we have a decent position. Okay. Play carefully, we'll play thoughtfully. We'll try as best as possible to play decent chess and hang on to our position here. So I wonder, bishop comes out, king goes over to g1. I guess they have something like queen out to g5. Maybe we have h3. Oh my gosh, what is this? It's not at all what I expected. King to g1, perhaps? I think what's coming next is we'll do like king to g1, bishop out to c4, and then queen comes down to f1, checkmate. But we don't have another way to interpose a piece between them and us right now. So I think perhaps king over to e1. Does that do anything differently? I don't think so. Maybe it allows us to run away to d1. Ugh, this is not looking good at all. And I don't think we have any other legal moves. Let's see. I think probably. Well, here we go. Yeah, king over to g1. Bishop comes down, and then we have queen down to e1. Certainly not an ideal position, but we're guarding against checkmate on f1. Okay. Yeah, none of this is like good or fun, but we will endeavor to stop our opponent from checkmating us as best we can. What would be lovely would be knight out to d2, but I don't see that as an option. If we do this, do we have any other checks available to us? I don't think so. That's unfortunate. So I think, yeah, queen to e1 comes after bishop to c4. And then I think our opponent will be sort of floundering. Ooh, that's interesting. Queen to d2. What are they planning here? What's the idea of this move? We can get our knight out and hit their queen. Do they want to come down maybe to d1? That could be an option. In that case, we have knight down to e1. And that's protected by our queen. Yeah, I mean, that seems decent. We have the option to make like other moves here. But I don't see anything else that looks even halfway decent other than maybe takes, but that doesn't defend against the immediate threat. In fact, that removes a defender from the square, which we don't want to do. So I think, gosh, knight out to b3 looks semi-decent. Knight out to b3, d4. We can't play d3 because that just drops the pawn. Tight position. We could preemptively play rook to e1, but I don't think that does anything for us. That just pins our knight. Yeah, so I think knight out here. That, like that. And then do they have anything else? They don't have a dark squared bishop anymore. They traded it for a rook. So I think this is fine. They can't come through and check anywhere else, I don't think. Okay. Sort of a gross move to have to make with our knight. It doesn't open up anything better, but we'll get our knight down to e1. And frankly, hope for the best. If knight takes, not queen takes, because that, I think, blunders. Looks like it blunders checkmate. But if knight takes, then king takes instead. I think we're defending this as well as it can be defended. I'm excited to go back to the review and see where the heck we messed up. So let's see. Looks dangerous. Bishop coming out to c4 is no longer an option, which is kind of nice. What else could they be planning? Queen here. Takes. That doesn't work out. Yeah, I think pawn up to d4 looks like our best move, unfortunately. Oh, I guess our e4 pawn is hanging now. Certainly not ideal. You could play something like queen to f3 to protect it, but at this point, being down another pawn isn't gonna change the course of the game. I guess we could play d3, and now with their knight on e1, a very strange place for a knight, but it's protecting that square. Yeah, let's do that. It's another reason that their bishop can't come out to c4. Now that opens up this square for our knight. Another attacker on this e5 pawn. Not that that's gonna do much for us, I don't think. Let's see, they have two defenders on this knight. So I don't think h3 is gonna do much for us, other than maybe like prepare an escape square for our king, which could be good. But I think we are weathering this attack about as well as it could be weathered. Maybe, no, knight doesn't do it. Yeah, this seems decent. Not decent. I don't love having their queen on e2. These are all... the light squared bishop is a little bit less imposing right now, which is kind of nice. But I don't know. We got to find a home. Okay, so they get castled long. I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Bishop out here runs into f6. I don't think that does anything for us. Messy. H3. Where does their knight go? What squares does it have available to it? It's a pawn. This loses the knight. This loses the knight. Yep. And then this loses the knight. Okay. So this forces their knight to retreat back to f6 or h6, and then maybe opens up. If they go back to f6, then that opens up this option, which looks maybe doable. All right. I guess too, knight drops back. We can maybe pick up this hanging pawn. No, we can't, because our queen is guarding our e1 knight, and that's critical. Could bring our knight down to c2. Okay, so that's not going to do it. Takes. This doesn't do anything. I think that just allows them to develop their piece to a nice natural square. Let's see, takes... Okay, no, first we drop our knight back. It's a sad state of affairs. Okay. So we could get our bishop out like this. No, that doesn't work. That's very ugly, in fact, and that looks super duper unpleasant. Bishop out to e3. Now that's no longer hit by their knight. That looks decent, and it threatens this a7 pawn. Okay, yeah, we can do that. That looks like a pretty good option. And that opens up our rook, our last remaining piece, as a defender of some sort. And now maybe we can safely get our knight off the back rank, now that our rook is patrolling the back rank. Although I guess queen takes here is a threat. I guess, yeah, queen takes... Oh, I think we're likely to lose a piece there. No, queen takes, we have knight to c2, connecting the knights, and this knight protects the rook on a1. So a complicated sequence. Let's make sure that this works out. My initial instinct was rook over to b1, but that drops the knight. So I think rook to c2. Our knights are connected. Their queen can't really go anywhere. Yeah, that looks really, really good, actually. This is suddenly coming together for us. I think we've fended off this attack reasonably well. Queen coming over to e5 looks dangerous. I guess they have queen takes on c3, which would nullify those efforts. Yeah, it's a shame. Okay. We could take this pawn. I don't know if that does anything for us. Queen takes on g7. Threatens, I guess, yeah, threatens both of these pieces, actually. It effectively, it doesn't hit their rook, actually. But I think maybe forces their knight to move back to g7, which looks great for us. And now our knight on e1 is protected twice. The fact that it's protected at all is a win, so I think we can take on g7. Their knight is stuck. It's likely to get lost to a pawn. So when their rook comes out, I think we can take their knight. The other option is knight back. Ooh, knight to g8 actually loses the rook. So I think our opponent is going to lose a piece here. This feels really good for us. I don't see any other options available to them. Unrelated, their queen is very nearly trapped, which I think is an exciting prospect. I guess not that nearly. Loses the queen, loses the queen, loses the queen. Okay, so their queen is not anywhere close to trapped. Loses the queen. Well, loses the queen. The queen has 3 squares it can move to if we find a way to threaten it. But that seems so difficult. I don't see a way that we could threaten their queen very effectively at all. All right, rook comes out, and of course the danger here is when we take, the rook is eyeing down this g2 pawn, but I don't see... Yeah, I mean, this is wonderful. So like we take, if they try to do something sneaky like this, relying on the fact that our g2 pawn is pinned, then we have queen takes on h3, which looks really good for us. So let's pick up this piece. Would love to see f5. That would be a huge blunder. Drops another piece with check. I don't think we're going to be quite that lucky. What is our opponent going to do here? Knight comes down, or rook comes down to d3. We would trade an exchange. Takes, and then takes, and that looks sort of ugly for us. Our king is so exposed. But we're up a piece now. We're down in exchange, but up a piece. So our opponent is up 2 pawns too, so they're still up a point of material. But this looks encouraging for us. I think we've successfully weathered off this attack. What the heck? F5. All of my dreams have come true. They drop another piece, I think. So we take here. And then what do? They can't move their rook because they drop this rook. So I think we take there and their king moves back. King moves back to b8. And then we could come over with check. And I think that just blunders a piece. But that's starting to look appealing. So let's take this with check. Now we're up material. And I think we can take this pawn too. That's threatening the head of our pawn chain. All right. Takes like that. Yeah, I think that's the move. This is a surprisingly effective defensive structure. Knights connected, I always love when knights are connected. And then this knight on c2 protecting the rook on a1. Let's see. Now, I guess the sacrifice, king takes, opens up queen down to f3, and then I think their king just retreats back, so I don't think that does anything for us. No clear way to proceed. I think we'll want to get our rook into the game, maybe with like rook to b1, or just pushing our pawn up the board. Looks like a pretty powerful idea. All right. What does this do? Okay. Rook comes out to g6. Maybe they're preparing to double up on the g file, and that looks dangerous. And they have ideas of like rook comes over, they take, we take, they take, and then they're threatening checkmate, supported by their other rook on g8. Okay. So what can we do? Can we add another defender to this pawn, or can we, I guess we could push it up like this. That looks sort of nice. But I think we can wait for them to double up first to make this threat, or make this change to our sort of defensive structure. In the meantime, what can we work on? So their queen is hitting both of these pieces. We can't move this knight because it's guarding the rook. If we move it, we drop the rook. So I think we could do like, and the rook needs to stay on the back rank. Well, I guess our knights are connected, so it doesn't actually need to do that. Okay. Also, there are back rank ideas. Maybe we just push like this? I don't know. Let's get our rook out of the way of their queen so we can maybe entertain moving one of these knights into a better square. Rook to b1 seems good. Staring down their king. I guess too, when they double up their rooks on g8, queen to f7 looks very powerful. Because then if they come down with check, we take, queen comes down, we have a move to take on g8, checkmate. So that's another way to mitigate this attack of theirs, is rather than playing, oh, what is this? Rook takes on d3, sacrificing an exchange. Okay, so I think they're moving forward with this idea, but I think that blunders back rank checkmate. So we come back here. Let's, confirm and double check. They don't have anywhere their king can go. Come back there with check. Rook comes down to d8. Yeah, I think our opponent saw it. Let's take a look at the review. I don't have unlimited review, so let's turn on the analysis board. Let's switch to the analysis board. White has mate in 2. Yep, queen f8 check, rook d8, queen takes d8, checkmate. Let's go back to the top. Let's dig into this game. E4, E5. We get the ruy-lopez, the classical defense, slight advantage for white. I think rook to E1. Rook to E1 was not the right move here, because as we saw, they have this really nice knight idea. So what was correct here? Knight takes on E5. Knight takes on E5. What? That leads to an advantage for white. Knight takes on E5. Why doesn't knight take on E5? D4, forking these two pieces. I see. So we're guaranteed to get the piece back. Plus we get a monster center. C6 is the next move. D takes E5. Knight takes E4. And then we get our, bishop to D3. Okay, that's good to know. So rook to E1 is not correct here. So this is ruy-lopez classical defense. We get the bishop comes out early. I guess knight comes out. Knight comes out, bishop comes out, bishop comes out. Rook to E1 is not correct because they get their other knight out. So what is the right move here? Knight takes on E5, allowing for this fork. Knight takes, fork. Cool. So note for next time, our opponent correctly responds. We take here, which is a big mistake, permitting losing this exchange. And then we're down material now. We've traded off a bishop, and then traded a bishop for a rook, and then we're down. No, we both traded off, a minor piece, and then traded a bishop, bishop for a rook. So we're down here. Let's keep watching the game. Huge attack from our opponent. Knight to A3 was the strongest engine move. I'm glad I identified that. That was challenging. Spent a lot of time on some of these moves. Get our knight out to protect. Everything else ends in disaster, it looks like. Let's see, D3, another decent engine move, protecting that pawn. We kick their knight out. Yet another top engine move. Thrilled about this. I think we identified a lot of these moves pretty well. Knight A to C2. Yep, creating this super duper weird defensive structure. Queen takes G7. Yeah, and then the advantage starts to creep back towards white. Here we go. This is like the critical blunder of the game. Queen takes E6 check. God, what a miss. I got super lucky seeing that. I sort of spoke that idea into existence, and I think we got very lucky here. Yeah, and here we have mate in 2. Cool. So strong attack by our opponent. I clearly need to study the ruy-lopez a little bit better. This classical variation is a gap in my opening knowledge. Rook to E1 was not correct, but in fact, taking a pawn, seemingly sacrificing a piece. So it's very interesting, very good to know. We'll get him next time. All right, it's another win. Puts us to 1157, an all-time high. Very exciting. We'll call it here. Have a good one, y'all.